Ready for a deep dive today? We're really going to get to know a character, a man called Ove. He's the main guy in this novel by Fredrik Backman. And, you know, I think we've all met an Ove in our lives. You know, that neighbor who's always got a frown on their face, or that relative who's so set in their ways that they'd rather argue with a brick wall than try something new.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ove is fascinating because he really embodies that kind of rigidity. This guy lives by the rules, and by the rules, I mean his rules. Backman does a fantastic job of showing us this right off the bat. Like, remember that scene where Ove is trying to buy a computer?
Oh, yeah.
He goes into the store with a very specific idea of what a computer should be, and no amount of explaining about laptops or tablets is going to change his mind.
It's like he's stuck in a time warp, right? You know, the world has moved on, but Ove is holding on to this idea of how things should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This whole black and white thinking, that's a huge part of who Ove is.
Totally. And it's not just about computers, it's everything. Like those scenes with the parking violations. Oh man, don't even get them started.
24 hours means 24 hours.
Exactly. There's no wiggle room with Oven, no gray areas. A rule, end of story.
And this whole inflexibility, it spills over into how he interacts with people, too.
Oh yeah, big time.
Like when he meets Carvana. Remember, she's the pregnant foreign woman, as he so eloquently puts it.
Oh boy. Not exactly the welcoming committee, right?
She's new to the neighborhood, a little flustered, and she accidentally drives over the curb with her trailer, and Ovi just lays into her.
Yeah, he's not exactly known for his people skills. But I think what's interesting is that there's this underlying reason for his grumpiness. It's like he's clinging to a world that's slipping away. A world of order and tradition and things making sense.
Totally. You hit the nail on the head. He sees people buying all this stuff they don't need, getting caught up in the latest gadgets, and just generally making a mess of things. And it drives him crazy. Like, he can't understand why everyone's so obsessed with having a newly refurbished house when they probably haven't so much as lifted a screwdriver.
It's like he's watching society unravel and he just doesn't know how to cope with it.
Right. You could say, Uthari Varajiu, what happens when someone feels left behind by all the changes happening around them? The world's changing faster than he can adapt, and his grumpiness, his rigidity, it's all a defense mechanism.
I mean, you gotta feel for the guy a little, right?
Yeah. At first glance, you might just write Ove off as a grumpy old man. But Backman doesn't let us off that easy. He gives us these glimpses into Ove's past, these little breadcrumbs that help us understand why he is the way he is.
It's like he's giving us the pieces of a puzzle and it's our job to put it all together.
Exactly. And one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle is his relationship with his father.
Yeah, you can definitely see that influence in how O views the world. Like that whole thing with the Saab.
Oh yeah, that car is like sacred to him.
It's not just a car, right?
No way. It represents a time when things were built to last, when people took pride in their work. And for Ove, it's a direct link to his dad.
And you see that reflected in how he maintains it, how he keeps it in perfect condition.
Exactly. Like it's a museum piece.
And then there's that story about Ove as a kid when he finds that wallet full of money.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Instead of keeping it or even thinking twice about it, he returns it.
Even though the other kids are telling him to keep it.
Right. It shows you that even at a young age, Ove had this strong moral compass.
And what's really interesting is how his dad reacts. He doesn't tell Ove what to do. He just says, you decide.
It's like he's giving Ove the freedom to make his own choices, but also trusting him to do the right thing.
Exactly. And that belief in Ove's integrity, it really sticks with him.
And then, bam! His dad dies suddenly when Ove is only 16.
Talk about a blow. To lose your father at that age, it's got to be incredibly tough.
Especially since they were so close. It's like a part of him is just gone and he doesn't know how to fill that void.
And you can see how that loss kind of sets the stage for the rest of his life. He retreats into himself, finds comfort in routine, in order, in those black and white rules he lives by. It's like he's trying to create a sense of control in a world that suddenly feels very chaotic and unpredictable.
Right. And then Sanja enters the picture, and suddenly there's this burst of color in Ove's world.
She's like a breath of fresh air, right?
Sure.
Completely different from him in every way.
Totally. She's full of life and laughter and spontaneity, everything he isn't.
But somehow it works. They balance each other out. She teaches him to loosen up a bit to enjoy the moment, and he gives her a sense of stability, a safe harbor.
And then just when you think things are looking up for Ove, tragedy strikes again.
That bus accident is brutal.
I know, it's like fate just keeps dealing him these terrible blows. It's just heartbreaking, you know. He finally lets someone in, lets himself be happy, and then it's ripped away from him.
And the way Backman describes Ove's grief, it's so raw, so visceral. He's angry at the world, at the unfairness of it all.
But you also see this incredible love for Sanja. The way he takes care of her, the way he fights for her, it's really powerful.
It's like his love for her is the only thing holding him together.
And when she dies, it's like he loses a part of himself. He even tries to take his own life a few times.
Which makes sense in a way, right?
Yeah.
He spent his whole life trying to control everything to do things the right way. And death is the ultimate loss of control.
Exactly. But then just when you think Ove is going to give up completely, these new neighbors move in next door, Parvana and her family.
Talk about a culture clash.
Right. Avan wants peace and quiet. Parvana is, well, let's just say she's not exactly shy.
And she does not put up with his nonsense. She sees right through his gruff exterior, and she's not afraid to call him out on it.
And somehow it works. They form this unlikely friendship.
It's actually pretty hilarious to watch Yvonne trying to maintain his grumpy persona while secretly helping Parvana with her car problems and playing with her kids.
And don't forget about the cat. He goes from shooing it away to building it a little house.
It's like Parvana and her family. They remind what it means to be human, to connect with others, to feel something other than grief and anger.
It's like she reawakens something in him that he thought was gone forever. And the more he opens up to Parvana, the more he starts to deal with his own past, his own regrets, like that whole thing with his friend Rune.
Oh man, that was tough to read.
I know. But it's also a testament to the power of forgiveness, both for ourselves and for others.
And Parvana, she's there for him through all of it, just listening, offering support without judgment.
And in the end, Oveg dies peacefully surrounded by the people who care about him. It's a bittersweet ending, but it feels right.
It really does.
Oveg's story, it's a reminder that even the grumpiest among us have the capacity for love and change. Sometimes all it takes is the right person to come along and remind us of that. And that's what makes A Man Called Ove such a special book. It's funny and heartwarming and thought-provoking all at the same time. It makes you think about the people in your own life, those who might seem a little rougher on the edges, because you never know what's going on beneath the surface, what kind of story they have to tell. So, yeah, I'd say this deep dive was a success. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I think Backman's novel has given us a lot to unpack and ponder. And you're right, sometimes the grumpiest exteriors can hide the biggest hearts. It's a good reminder for us all.